To my live here. Morning. Let me get my notes. It's Penuel the Black Pen, Penuel the Swart Pen, Penelim Nyama, Sibolunzulu, Penuel Pene Ensu, L'Estilo Noir. I hope you guys have had a good week. I hope you're enjoying 2025 thus far. It's been quite eventful, specifically with what's happening in America. Of course, we've had issues as South Africans with our soldiers passing away or being murdered in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And yeah, man, it's just a little bit of load shedding for like 2 days or so. But yeah, man, it's a new year. We had the State of the Nation address last night. President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa addressed the nation in Parliament in Cape Town, giving his views and his vision for the country, reaffirming that South Africa is a sovereign nation, speaking about that the NHI, the National Health Insurance Act, will be implemented. I think he briefly touched on the Expropriation Act. He spoke about the Basic Education, what is it? Basic Education something amendment. Whatever Bella stands for, the Bella Act that has been implemented, that South Africa will not be bullied. He was cheered on mostly. There were a few times when people were like, hi. Spoke about 100 billion rand in a transformation fund. I mean, this is not news. And I don't normally watch the State of the Nation address anymore. I feel gaslit by Cyril. I don't like watching him. His speeches are very boring. I don't find them inspiring at all. I'm tired of the fake promises, not just by him, but by even presidents before him. And just the state of this country really, really frustrates me. I didn't have much to do yesterday, and because I wanted to hear if he was going to say anything about the soldiers that had been murdered, I wanted to hear if he had anything to say about Paul Kagame or Donald Trump. I don't think he mentioned their names at all. Yeah, it didn't happen, but I wanted to hear if he was going to say anything along those lines. Not surprised, but disappointed. It's become, I guess, the nature of the game that we no longer have an opposition in South Africa. Umkhonto weSizwe is meant to be the official opposition, but they frankly are weak. You know, the EFF at least, unlike the DA, would actually bring in some energy and oomph at the State of the Nation address and in Parliament. MK, I mean, it's a bunch of old ANC guys more than anything. And yes, they were not kind in the interviews afterwards, but they weren't giving anything of substance, really. Ex-President Jacob Zuma couldn't attend. He had to attend court, apparently. There's conspiracy theories around maybe he was told to go to court on the day that he was meant to be at the SONA, but there were representatives there. A lot of what would be opposition, Democratic Alliance, the UDM of Bantu Olomisa, the DA, of course. Did I say the DA, the Democratic Alliance? The IFP, Inkatha Freedom Party, Rise Mzansi now of Songezo Zibi. They don't have anything bad to say about Cyril because they're now in the cabinet. They now sit there and they get fancy salaries and they have fancy titles. So they almost can't criticize them. And we don't have an opposition to actually criticize what work is being done and what work is not being done, and to call out the fake promises, which we know most of them will be fake, but here we are. But that was SONA last night, just a brief summary. I've had a very frustrating week myself, starting with the utterings of Donald Trump. Donald Trump speaking, lying about what's going on in South Africa, inspired by the signing of the expropriation amendment, you know, the Expropriation Act that we have now, and the tornado, hurricane, tsunami that we had on Twitter more than anything. Seeing a lot of white South Africans in their utterings around supporting Donald Trump's statements, seeing Elon Musk, an ex-South African, echoing the sentiments of white South Africans, also peddling a lot of misinformation and lies. being reminded of the racism in this country, seeing a lot of racial tension, a lot of racist remarks being hurled back and forth on Twitter, listening to Afriforum gaslighting people with some of the work that they're doing, hearing some people calling like Vuyo Zumula of the African Transformation Movement, saying that, organizations like Afriforum and others, are committing a form of treason because they're not being patriotic and the like. It has just been very heavy for me. I have spoken in the past about how this country disappoints me in many ways. I have spoken in the past about how I don't think racism is going to end in this country because the individuals and the groups are not serious about ending racism. And a lot of them, including political parties, and maybe especially political parties, benefit from racism. I mean, if you look at parties like the EFF, Umkhonto weSizwe, if you look at parties like arguably the DA and maybe Freedom Front Plus, they largely require racism to continue existing for their voter base to vote for them. Because if they actually push for real integration, if they actually push for non-racialism and multiracialism, people actually look at them and be like, well, I don't really think I should vote for you and support you. So they really rely on that a lot. A lot of the civil organizations, maybe Afriforum as well, will speak about standing for Afrikaners and minorities. But the reality is they require some kind of lack of integration and coming together for their organizations to stay relevant, so to speak. I've written some notes and I want to try and go through them as quickly as I can. The first one is going through, I don't know if this should be the last. Let me start with it. Dricus du Plessis is now a world champ in United Fighting Championship, UFC, mixed martial arts. South African darling, Siya Kolisi, the captain of the Springboks, Eben Etzebeth, Springbok legend and the most capped Springbok of all time. I think at his fight to win the championship, they brought him into the arena and into the ring. It was a beautiful moment, like the Springboks winning the World Cup, like Bafana when they win any tournament or when they do well, like when we celebrate Tyler, like when we celebrate any South Africans winning Grammy Awards, Wouter Kellerman. In the past, it would be your Ladysmith Black Mambazos. South Africans just blazing on the global stage, your Thuso Mbedus and the like. I mean, Anele Mdoda and her team, I think they've been shortlisted for an Academy Award and Oscar in live action short film. So we celebrate those things. It brings us together. It makes us feel like we have a country that's worth fighting for. We have a country that is progressive. We have a country that is about winners and champions. And for brief moments and brief pockets of moments, it almost feels like we're moving in the right direction. We forget about Afrikaners, about Zulus, about blacks, about whites, about apartheid. We forget all of those things and we unite as a nation, brief as it may be, generally, most of us. Now, in the past, Dricus has gone on platforms to speak out against farm murders, of which many people are upset, and they're like, but you can't speak about farm murders and echo these sentiments of Afriforum and others to almost seem like there's a white genocide here when there isn't. And there isn't like targeted white killings at farms, regardless of what people may say. I did say this in my last live video, I think about 2 or 3 days ago, to say between 50 and 70 people are killed on farms in South Africa every year, out of over 20,000 people that are murdered every year in the whole country. 50 to 70. No one should be getting killed, of course. But if you compare it to people being killed in the Cape Flats, people being killed in other townships, people being killed in political murders, people being killed because of the taxi industry, ordinary citizens, 50 to 70 is less than a fraction. And on top of that, the propaganda is such that they don't highlight that those farm murders, the 50 to 70, include black people, include farm workers, include other people that happen to be on the farm, include people that were killed by white perpetrators, include white people that were killed by white people. So then the propaganda machine keeps driving and it becomes a problem. So for Dricus du Plessis as an influential role model to go and support that really upsets a lot of people. At some point, I think he did say that this is not true, but there were rumors circulating around that he supports Cape independence, that the Cape should be an independent state. By the way, Dricus is allowed to have his own views. He's allowed to support being against farm murders. He's allowed to support being for Cape independence. He's allowed. Maybe people don't understand that. But it is important to understand what those things do if we're speaking about one united South Africa. Does it mean Dricus doesn't identify with the rest of South Africans? Does he only identify with the Cape people? Does he want Cape independence? Does he want the country fragmented? Why does he not speak out against other murders in South Africa? Why does he not speak out against the Cape Flats and why specifically the farm murders? It almost feels like he's driving a certain agenda. So then maybe only those people should support him, is the sentiment. Now, recently, he had a Trump supports champions t-shirt because I think he's going to be fighting Sean Strickland, an American UFC cage fighter as well. And he made a video speaking about how he supports Donald Trump. He's met Donald Trump and Trump is a great man, and Trump was saying he supports champions and he's a champion. He rubbed a lot of South Africans up the wrong way because it's like, but you are South African. You should be putting South Africa first. So what if Trump loves champions? We as South Africans love champions. You can put South Africa loves champions. You can put the Springboks love champions. You can maybe even put, if you feel like you like him, which I sadly don't, Cyril Ramaphosa likes champions because he does. He'd be there congratulating all the people that are doing well for this country. Not just him, but presidents before him as well. So it almost felt like he was siding with, the Americans, siding with your Elon Musks and your Donald Trumps and your Afriforums, again in this propaganda that is being fueled. And as a voice and as someone who's seen so much love in South Africa, he sat with DJ Sbu on the Hustlers Corner. He sat with DJ Fresh on What a Week. We love Dricus. Ons is baie trots op Dricus. Ons dink hy dan baie goeie werk vir Suid-Afrika, vir Suid-Afrikaners in die hele wêreld. We love him. Samthanda, hoe ek sê, hama Dricus ubashaya ba. And I believe he's from Brakpan. I stand to be corrected, but there was a line that even Rassie Erasmus and the guys would echo. Hulle weet nie wat ons weet. Hulle weet nie wat ons weet nie. They don't know what we know. And we know, boy. Die manne van die Oosrand, die Woesrand. Hulle is rough, hoor. The guys from Brakpan, and we're proud of them. So to almost now want to lean towards Americans and Trump, who are saying these inflammatory things, is kind of disrespectful. It's almost a Siya Kolisi winning the World Cup and then giving a shout out to the president of France, or giving a shout out to the president of America, who's been saying things that are kind of inappropriate and not using his platform to say, look, I don't agree with some of the utterings. I think South Africa is a great nation. I don't really know what's going on with the Expropriation Act, but I don't believe in people's land being taken without proper conversations. But I do think that all South Africans should share in the land, share in the economy, so we can have a prosperous nation. So that became sad. And many South Africans now are hoping that Sean Strickland moors, to put it lightly, not to put it lightly. They hope that he beats Dricus du Plessis because they're angry. And this is Sean Strickland, who's said some very inflammatory things about South Africa on Twitter. I responded even last year. He spoke about the corruption. He spoke about the poverty. He's like, he doesn't want to fucking go fight in Africa. That's bullshit. I responded. I'm like, America's got corruption. America's got poverty. South Africa doesn't have mass shootings like they do in America. If you ever go look at the stats that they hide, they've got the highest mass shootings numbers on the planet. Kids just get gunned down at schools, in neighborhoods. If you look at places like Los Angeles, never mind the fires that were in California recently, there's so many poor people, there's so many hobos. There's literally an area called, I think, Skid. Is it Skid Avenue or Skid Street or something like that? Skid marks being like basically the marks that you leave on the toilet after you've pooed, defecated. To be like, it's that filthy, it's that dirty. There's rats, there's gang rats in New York. Alexandra rats in the city of New York. Skid Row, thank you, someone that told me that. They've got gang rats, they've got problems, they've got racism. You had Black Lives Matter there, you had innocent black kids being gunned down by police. You had George Floyd being murdered by a police officer with his knee on his neck. So America has no fucking right to have some superiority complex over us. They've got a history of slavery that's worse than apartheid here. They were lynching and hanging black people. Last I checked, we had a lot of atrocities in this country. We had white police officers beating up black people, sending out tear gas, especially to kids, torturing, black people, and. But if you compare that violence to lynching, to slave ownership, to hanging with America and that cross-Atlantic slave trade, America's got no fucking right to this day to speak as if they are the better people. So Sean Strickland must actually watch how he speaks and how he moves, and people must just be very warned about supporting him, because he's not really the greatest advocate for South Africa and South Africans. He did come to fight as a kid. He was teaching a lot of kids there in an orphanage how to box. I think that was a really great moment, and there's great pictures of there. But it's not for him to now go and speak as if we're a shithole country or a shithole continent, as Donald Trump would say. There's been a lot of good work done, and I haven't seen Sean Strickland speak about the beauty of South Africa, the coastlines, and the fact that we managed to have a transition without more bloodshed. The successes of Bafana Bafana back in the day, going to the World Cup, the successes of the Springboks, the successes of even South Africans like Elon Musk, I think Roelof Botha, if I'm not mistaken. You've got Roland Schoeman, an Olympic legend in South Africa from swimming, also saying inflammatory things on Twitter. Arnold Vosloo, Hollywood star, Charlize Theron, Hollywood star. These are South Africans that have done great things. Never mind Trevor Noah, Black Coffee, Thuso Mbedu. You've got a guy from Eqeberha, Patrick Soon-Shiong, an Asian guy from South Africa, one of the wealthiest people in Los Angeles. South Africa's done phenomenally well considering. But now you've got Americans that will gaslight us, but not look at their own problems. And that's something that I'm not too happy about. So I won't be supporting Dricus, and I won't be supporting Sean Strickland either. Second point is, I was invited this past yesterday or Wednesday or Thursday morning. I was invited to the Gareth Cliff show to come and speak. I was considering going there next week. I think Gareth Cliff had gone to say that I can't make it. I will be coming through next week. But having spoken to the producer, James, I told him that, I'd like to turn down the offer. I don't think I'm ready to sit down, and I'm still wrapping my head around what they want us to discuss. Donald Trump, the Expropriation Act, and some of the things that are out there. Part of the reason I think Gareth Cliff wanted to invite me is he had Rob Hersov on the Gareth Cliff show. It may be on Monday, Tuesday, I'm not sure. And he had him virtually. I think he had a couple of guests. Part of what Rob Hersov said in that engagement was that he believes that I'm a black racist. Okay. Now, I shouldn't be surprised, because just that morning, Rob Hersov had said that to me via text. I'm not going to expose the confidential text I had with Rob Hersov, but we had just a debate, a disagreement, and an argument over WhatsApp. And one of the things he said there, besides some of the other more derogatory things he said, was that he feels I'm a black racist. I was like, hey, you can feel however you want. But for him to go on a public platform like that and to say he feels I'm a black racist is upsetting, it's disappointing, it's triggering, it's inflammatory, and it's inconsiderate. He can, he speaks however he speaks about the ANC, and it's his prerogative. He speaks however he speaks about anyone. It's his prerogative. But I've been to Rob's home. I've met his family. I've met his friends. We've had conversations about what it would take to make this country better. Both of us have criticized the failings or the failures of black people in this country, white people, black politicians and business leaders, white politicians and business leaders. And for him to say that really disappointed me. And it felt, of course, like I'm being baited. Like I must just jump on social media and make a video. How dare Rob Hersov say that? And then Gareth Cliff would then maybe want to call me, hey, Rob was here the other day, or Rob was saying the other day, he believes you're a black racist. What do you have to say about that? It's like, I don't want to talk about that. I don't. I'm just disappointed at someone that I consider a friend, someone that I consider, mentor, father figure. I mean, Rob is old enough to be my dad. And he dropped an episode recently with Dr. Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh. I thought it was a brilliant episode between the two of them. The day after he filmed with Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh, he filmed with myself on Convo. We just film in advance and we only drop once a week. So the episode is only dropping next week, Monday, even though literally it was recorded the day after Sizwe Mpofu Walsh's interview with him. So you're going to be seeing that interview on Monday. And I'm sad that that interview is going to be coming out with this now thing hanging. I'm disappointed. I think he was on my live 2-3 days ago. I don't know if he was expecting me to say something about what he said, but I saw he said in the comments, something along the lines of, you're still my friend, even though sometimes you can't say sort of. I'm like, don't do that. I've said this to Rob. I've said this to some of Rob's friends. I used to be in some of their WhatsApp groups that I'm a good black. I speak good English and good Afrikaans, and I played rugby, and I kind of understand the Afrikaner angle, and I kind of understand the English angle. I understand how white people feel, but I also understand how coloreds feel, and Indians feel, and black people, of course, feel. And you try to be sympathetic and have perspective of everyone in the spirit of unity and working together. But when you feel like other people are not even willing to make an effort, they come across as racist. And I said this many times in their WhatsApp groups. Any of the members that would be in the WhatsApp groups can confirm. I left the group a couple of times to be like, you guys are being racist. And I'm like, if you guys are going to anger a good black like Penzo, imagine how the ordinary black child, never mind the poor black child, try and imagine how the ordinary black child feels and why they would support an economic freedom fighters, Umkhonto weSizwe, Julius Malema, Jacob Zuma. Because you guys just don't get it. You guys built your wealth off the exploitation of black labor, the oppression of black people, the forceful removal of black people off their land, the forced laws on black people that literally took their wealth on the land from them. And today you're like, oh, let's play fair, let's follow the rule of law. And when certain black people are like, well, we can't play fair because you guys won't let us in. So we're going to commit crime. We're going to be corrupt. We're going to loot. We're going to front. You guys get angry. Oh, but you can't support that. I'm like, but you're rich from past injustice. And you guys don't like these guys. You're not willing to put Julius on your board. You're not willing to put Jacob Zuma on your board. You're not willing to share your wealth with them. They're not even doing what your forefathers did. They're not exploiting white labor. They're not oppressing white people. They are not shafting white people off their land, although people feel that may be coming with the Expropriation Act. They are not enforcing laws. Some look at these race laws and BE and say, no, white people will suffer so that black people can. They didn't do that. They might be looting and corrupt, and I'm not saying that's right. It's wrong. Again, I'm the idiot because I understand all the sides. But when you guys only look at it from one side, you're literally wanting us to almost pretend like your wealth just comes from hard work and innovation and ingenuity. That's racist. And if you don't see that that's racist, then I think we have an even bigger problem. If you do see it's racist, but you're not willing to do anything about it, cool. Again, that's your prerogative. You don't have to change. The Zulus don't have to dismantle Ingonyama Trust and give it to Omtetwa, no Numalo, and whoever else, and be like, guys, we're splitting up the land and giving it back to the families. The ANC wealthy black guys today don't have to share their wealth. Osaki Matozo, no Mzikumalo, no Ramaphosa, no Tokyo Sehwale, no Dr. Anna Mokhokong, no Bridget Motsipe, Khadeb. They don't have to give back their wealth and share. We're sharing with, they can keep it. But they must know where the stuff comes from, and they must know that some of us know. So that when other people complain and are crying, they mustn't pretend like, what do you mean I worked hard? Nah, dog. There are people that wake up at 4 o'clock every morning and walk and catch trains and catch taxis and get into gardens and get into little shops and get into warehouses and get into trucks and work the whole day. And they don't see their kids. They get home at 8 at night. They don't get to be parents. And they earn peanuts. They work hard. They didn't do well at school. They're not academically gifted. They weren't in the right neighborhoods. They weren't maybe gifted in sports so that some white school can go pick them up as Zwide and help them become Springboks. They didn't have those privileges. But they're working hard. So what? Fuck them. They pieces of shit. They deserve to suffer. Nah, dog. So that was really disappointing for me. And look, the Rob Hersov is the one part. The other part is Gareth Cliff himself, who's also posted a lot of inflammatory tweets this week. He's been called out by a lot of black people and a lot of white people as well, which I actually appreciate. In the past, people have said that, look, Gareth is kind of racist. And, and you give people the benefits of the doubt because you're like, let me engage. You don't want to create a bigger monster by alienating them. What happens when you bash racist people is they go and find other racist people and they become more racist. You almost want to bring them close and be like, look, what's wrong? Let me hear you out. What's frustrating you? Corruption. I get it. I also hate ANC corruption. What's the issue? Crime. I also hate crime, bro. I'm also a victim like you. What's your issue? Black people keep voting for these guys. You're right. There's something wrong. But where's the DA failing to convince black people? They're failing because they're not transforming Kukuletu, Kwalanga, Enyanga, Mitchell's Plain, Philippi. They're failing. So the DA that is meant to be the guys are failing to transform because then people would vote for them. These other guys in Kata Freedom Party also failing. If anything, they're losing votes now to MK and others. The Zulus are like, we're not feeling these. They're failing. It's like, I'm frustrated like you, Gareth. I also want safety. I also want my kids to go to like good schools. I also want a country that's functional. My wish is not for white people to have their wealth taken. My wish is not for white people to have their land taken. My wish is for South Africans who are capable, who want to work, who are good people, to be able to do that. And if they need access to land, and that land is owned by a white person, can we please meet each other halfway? And if that white person refuses, can a higher authority please intervene and take that land away from them? Because clearly these guys are not interested in nation building. Similar to the economy. An economy that was built off breaking the backs of black people. Can we please share? Should we just give shares to black politicians? No. That obviously is not even sustainable. But there are talented black kids. I mean, a Siya Kolisi of business, as an example. You find those, Sisa Ngebulana, at some point, Umandla Sbego, there's these new age guys. I don't really want to speak about them now. Maybe at some point, a Sandile Zungu, etc. He was a beneficiary of BEE, by the way. But you almost want to find these talented black kids like Siya Kolisi, like Cheslin Colby, and you want to bring them on and be like, hey, join the company. Let's work. You're progressive. We're going to give you shares, but you're going to earn them over time. But we just want you to have a stake so that you have a say, so that we can drive this thing forward. Because if Siya Kolisi and his family as we first need to build Izwite Rugby Football Union or Spring Rose or African Bombers, if they first need to build that into something that can compete in the Currie Cup and then Super Rugby or the URC before he can be considered for a Springbok, Siya Kolisi will never become a Springbok. So he kind of needs a leg up. He needs Grey High School in PE at Gqeberha to see his talent, to say, we know your forefathers didn't invest money in Grey PE, but we see your talent and we're willing to pay you from past wealth to come and study here so that you can become somebody. That's how it works, or that's how it's meant to work. But if you're not willing to do that, what do you expect to happen? What do you expect to see happening? So some of the tweets by Gareth Cliff, man, also kind of rubbed me off the wrong way. I didn't want to go to the Gareth Cliff show and debate with him and argue with him and be asked these inflammatory questions where I'm meant to speak on behalf of black people. I don't speak on behalf of black people. I'm not pro-black. I was born in a township in Emadadeni in Newcastle, but we moved when I was 5 years old. Shout out to my mother, who was working by herself to make sure that we could move to the suburbs of Arbor Park as soon as Nelson Mandela and the rest allowed us to, who allowed me to move from black preschools to a colored school at the time, Chelmsford Primary in Fairley, a colored area in Newcastle. And then as soon as they opened up white schools for interracial education, I was moved to Newcastle Junior Primary, Busy B, Newcastle Senior Primary, Newcastle. I faced a lot of racism in those years, but it was my mom trying to do what was best. You'd go to a Rhodes University, University of Johannesburg, we're here today. But I can't speak for the child who's been born and raised in a township, born and raised in a squatter camp, who didn't do well at school. I was lucky. I was academically strong. I was smarter than 99.9% of white kids. I was better at rugby than 99.9% of white kids. By the way, I was smarter than 99.9% of Indian kids. I was smarter than Indian kids. These brainiac Indian kids. I was smarter than the Taiwanese kids at school who were brilliant at maths and science. I was lucky. Siya Kolisi is lucky to have been born a genetic freak like LeBron James. But he needs to understand his privilege and be like, but there are many talented Xhosa boys like me who just happen to be skinny, who happen to not be genetic freaks, who happen to not be as comfortable with white people, who don't have my personality. And we need to include them as well. So I can't speak for them. And when you ask Panel to speak, yeah, but Pence, Baba, I'm not the EFF. I'm not Umkhonto weSizwe. I'm not a black leader. I'm not a black voice. Don't do that. I speak for myself. I speak for people that are like me. And where I can, I try to explain where I think black people come from in their mindset. I try to explain. It is not to defend them. It is not to say I am them. It is to say I think this is the situation. I think your Zumas, your Malimas, and people affiliated to them would loot because they weren't academically strong. They aren't getting the board seats. They aren't brilliant at sports, at music, at acting. So they need to find a way to get access to wealth so that they can also be rich, and so that maybe at some point they can, maybe one day, we don't know, start building the institutions or investing in the institutions. The guy that built Sundowns, I said to Dr. Padi Lehuhla, the guy who built Sundowns actually stole money from, I think it was Standard Bank, with his girlfriend at the time. And because of that, they built Sundowns into the super team. I think it was Sundowns, if I'm not mistaken. He'd take the guys to England to watch football there. The guys were earning big bucks, etc., etc. For guys to have that access, thieving had to happen. Robin Hood. It's not right, but we understand. So I do not want to go on the platform to do that, to be gaslit, to be put in a situation where I end up getting emotional and maybe I say things I might regret. So I'm just covering those things because I think I was being invited, obviously for views, for conversation where possible. I don't know if I was meant to give a perspective, but considering that I've been speaking for so long, considering that I've had conversations with some of these guys individually for so long, and it feels like they're still not getting it, or they get it, but they don't care. And they will support Trump, and they will support Musk, and they will support, and they won't isolate the issue to corrupt ANC politicians. They will not isolate the rot to rich white people that fund the ANC, rich white people that give ANC politicians board seats, that work with them, that get tenders from the ANC. White English people, white Afrikaners, white Jewish people, Indians that are involved, some colored people that are involved in the corruption and the looting. They will not isolate that. They want to say things that inflame all black people. You can't just expropriate land. You're like, but you do realize that land was taken in 1913. Can you not address that and then isolate the rot to the ANC? Yes, black people should get their land back, but it should not be administered by the ANC. And we have to acknowledge that there are white people that refuse to give back land that they took, immorally so. And they refuse to sell it. And that's why you're at a point where the courts have to intervene and say, but you guys are not doing the right thing. You guys took the land in 1913. The ANC and others, as corrupt as they may be, have tried to chat to you for 30 years. You've refused to sell at market rate, which you should not even be getting. So now we're saying we will take that land, we will not compensate you. And instead of explaining that dynamic, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Gareth Cliff, Rob Hersov, Afriforum are all going to pretend like they don't understand this. Or maybe they do, but they don't fucking care. Fuck the black child. Fuck 1913 and the Land Act. Get over fucking apartheid. Come on, it's been 30 years, bro. Get over it. Why don't you give the land back to the Khoi and the Bushmans? Look, we white people have also suffered injustices in the past. Yeah, but you know, the Jewish and the Holocaust, all these inflammatory things to basically say to black people, fuck you, go fuck yourselves. We actually aren't really guilty. We don't feel guilty about apartheid. Your little ANC government with their Jewish and other white friends who funded them, they fucked you. We're all laughing. We're richer than we've ever been in 30 years. Fuck you. And then black people get angry. And you're like, okay. And then you sit back and you get angry. And then I have to remember that on both sides, I'm pissed. Because black people have not done themselves any favors. Black people have not done themselves any favors. So you're stuck in the middle. This little minority, 0.01% non-racialist. Trying to be understanding of both sides, but angry at both sides. And the people that are meant to be the voices on both sides. You'll find a Rob Hersov, you'll find a Fikile Mbalula. You'll find a Patrice Motsepe, you'll find a Gareth Cliff. You'll find an Afriforum, you'll find the trade unions, your COSATU, they just there to inflame people. They're just there to piss people off. And you're like, I must come in now and defend black people against white people. And then tomorrow I must defend white people. That's not, no one's paying me. No one is paying me. I'm not sitting in parliament earning 100,000 rand a month. Contrary to the lies you'll read on social media, I'm not funded by Rob Hersov. I live my own life. I'm not funded by Afriforum. They've never given me a rand. I'm not funded by white people somewhere. And mind you, I have no issue being given money by white people. I have no issue being given money by black people. I'm not funded by DJ Sbu. I'm not funded by the Maponya family. I'm not funded by the Ramaphosa or the Mutsipes. I'm not funded by some pro-black organization. I'm not funded by anyone. I make my little bit of money from YouTube and selling ad space and selling my books and consults where I can. I don't mind being funded, but I'm not funded. And because you don't fund me, you have no fucking right to expect me to be a mouthpiece for your bullshit propaganda. While you're rich from BEE, from looting, from tenders, from past apartheid, from past colonialism, from your rich friends in America or your business associates in China, while you're rich, living in mansions in Hyde Park and Sandton and Danefern, I'm not. I live in a little flat. I just get by. I'd love to make money. I'd love it to be above board. I'd want it to be for work that I believe in. But you will not fucking get me to say the things you want to say as if you give me a paycheck every month to support Afriforum or to support the free market capitalism or to support radical, what's RET? Radical economic transformation, or to support Pan-Africanism, or to support whatever it is that you want me to support. No one gives me money. Jacob Zuma and his family doesn't give me money for me to support Umkhonto weSizwe. Julius Malema and his family don't give me money to support the EFF. Neither does John Steenhuisen, Helen Zille and the DA. Neither does Gayton McKenzie or the PA. Neither does Untate Herman Mashaba. No one gives me money for me to go out there and to support their cause. If they did, you'd be the first to know. You'd see that I'm part of an organization and I'm earning a salary. And I'm now part of these people. No one is doing that. So when you want to say comments and say things out there, I can't believe he said that. Who the fuck are you in my life? People like Penula sell out. What am I selling out to? When did you ever give me money to speak for black people? When did you ever fund my mother when she was walking every day to catch taxis to go teach kids in a township? When did you ever fund my father or his football team while he was training soccer boys in Madadin? When did you ever feed my kids and donate money and say, this is for your children, for their school uniform? When did you ever do that? Never. But you have the fucking audacity to feel entitled to me as if you voted for me. You didn't. As if you buy from my business. You don't. As if you send me money out of the goodness of your heart. You do not. What I stand for is non-racialism. What I stand for is good people. What I stand for is just making sure that we add value and you do well. But you become like this tiny minority that is tinier than the tiniest minority. And you get punched from all sides. Hey, from all sides. How could you say this? Everything by motherfuckers out there who don't contribute a dirty rand to your existence. And it leaves you sad. It leaves you sad and drained and depressed and almost hopeless. Who should I fight for? Who are my people? So yeah, I wanted to cover that. And my last note on those is Afriforum. Let me look at the time. Jeez, I speak a lot. I joined Afriforum as a member 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago now. I made a video about it. I didn't lie. No one went to dig up, hey, did you know this guy is... I said it. You know, when people weaponize what you're telling them, I have children with these women. And then people take that information and they use it to stab you and to punch you and to shoot you. And you're like, I wasn't looting. I wasn't hiding. I wasn't lying. I wasn't cheating. Or I told you my reality and I explained why, but you didn't give a fuck about why. I explained why I joined Afriforum as a member. I had respected and admired them for many years. I fully understood that they were not for black people, not that they're against, but Afriforum is not a pro-black organization. It's not a pro-South African. They're not here for that. There's political parties and other organizations for that. Afriforum stands for minorities in South Africa, specifically Afrikaners. I wasn't confused. Like, oh, yeah, I wasn't. Anyone who thinks I was confused, I was never confused. So some of the things they would fight for would not surprise me, even if I'm against them. They wanted to sort of legitimize the apartheid flag. I was against that. I made videos about it. I said it. I wasn't hiding, supporting it. When they were going against Julius Malema and the Dubuli Bunu song, I tried to explain the nuance of that chant and that song, even when Elon Musk came in and I was upset. I even sat with Ernst van Zyl, the spokesperson for Afriforum. I was like, I feel like you guys are pushing propaganda and trying to fundraise, and I think that's wrong. I wasn't speaking to him as a member of Afriforum. He doesn't have to answer to me at all. I wasn't speaking to him because I have some authority over Afriforum. It was just, I knew Ernst. Ernst is a young, white, Afrikaner, South African guy who's patriotic about this country, who wants this country to work, and who loves Afrikaners. I'm Penuel the Black Pen, Penuel Mlojwa, Zulu boy from Newcastle, who's left the Zulu nation, who's just trying to make sure that the country works. We were having a chat between us. That's all. And he spoke, yes, to defend Afriforum, but it was just a chat. And I was speaking not on behalf of black people, but to explain that I wasn't happy. That's all, bro. That's it. We spoke. He dismantled some of the myths. He confirmed certain things, but I was upset. So with the propaganda of the farm murders and these things, I've been upset and I've said it. Why did I join Afriforum? The clincher for me, because I'd wanted to join it for a while. Afriforum was the one organization that went on platforms and said, we will take up the fight to ensure that ex-Bafana Bafana captain, Orlando Pirates captain, and South African legend, Senzo Meyiwa, his family can get some justice. Why? Because the Meyiwa family went to Afriforum. The Meyiwa family, black people who had gone to your Orlando Pirates, gone to your political parties, gone to other black places, they were not getting help. And they said, let's go to this minority Afrikaner group and ask, please, can you help us? We've seen you guys fight other cases. And Afriforum said, we will help you with our funds that largely come from white Afrikaners. And I said, if they are willing to do that, I am willing to contribute to this initiative. And not only that, they would go and build a private tertiary institution. There are so many people with so much money. You've got your ANC, you've got your COSATU, you've got your SATU, you've got your, at some point you had NEVCOC, you've got the churches, your ZCC, your Shambe Church, you've got the black tenderpreneurs, you've got these black guys that own Shisanyamas and car washes, you've got black influencers, you've got all of these black people with so much money that could be building institutions for skills, and they are not. And Afriforum said, we will build an institution. What's the catch? They teach in Afrikaans. I speak Afrikaans. I know a lot of black people that speak Afrikaans. I know a lot of colored kids that speak Afrikaans. I'm like, you will be going there to learn how to work with your hands so that you can be a plumber, an electrician, an artisan, so that you can feed your kids. I'm going to be upset that you're learning in Afrikaans instead of English. Not isiZulu, not isiXhosa, not Siswati, not Sindebele, not Sesotho, not Sepedi, not Xitsonga, in English. I must be angry that Soltech doesn't teach in English, a British colonial language. And that is the reason a black person will be pissed that that non-black school is not teaching in another white language. Do you know how fucked you are in the head to fight that? It's cognitive dissonance. You prefer the white English guy over the white Afrikaans guy instead of a black guy who's like you. They're not building Zulu institutions. It's white Afrikaner money. It's not government money. It's their money from donations. Afriforum Solidarity. They built an institution. I'm like, my little bit of money can contribute to that so that we have skills in the country. So be it. They've worked with certain tribal families, black, to help them get recognized. They fought other cases. Now, I joined Afriforum, I was donating, I think, 100 Rand or something per month. If I even lasted 2 years, that would be 2,400 Rand. That is, it's not even a drop in the ocean. It's like water vapor. Because Afriforum has got 350,000 members. And if they're all contributing 100 Rand each, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that might be 35 million Rand a month. They do not need my 100 Rand. They do not need my 1,000 Rand. They do not need my 10,000 Rand. They do not need my 100,000 Rand. I am a non-factor in Afriforum. I am a non-factor. I'm not what they stand for. I am not who they represent. I joined Afriforum because I wanted to contribute in the work they're doing so that tomorrow, when there's justice for the Meyiwa family, I can say, I also contributed in the fight. Tomorrow, when there are white, colored, black children with diplomas in skills from Soltech, even if they speak Afrikaans, I can say I also contributed a little bit there. So yes, largely white Afrikaans money, but I also contributed, and I'm very proud of what's happened there. And I got attacked for that because people believe my little 2 cents that I donated is now saying, you donated money to fight EFF. You donated money for the flag. I didn't. But when you're dealing with hyper-emotional people and people that cannot reason beyond a weekend and getting drunk and twerking and TikTok videos, you can't expect anything intellectual to come from there. And I did make a video when I left Afriforum, and it was because of the EFF Elon Musk thing that was happening. I was like, you know what, as a paying member, I'd like to leave. It's not a big deal because, again, my money is negligible. They don't need my money. I was just speaking as myself because I have a voice and a platform. I've been making videos for years when nobody knew me. So it just so happens that I make a video now. It's a big story. Cool, whatever. But I'm not going to not make a video because I made a video when I joined. I'm making a video when I leave. Every other month, I still donate to Afriforum. Not to fight the EFF, not to push propaganda, but some of these good initiatives that they do. I'm disappointed. I'm not happy about a lot of the tweets, about them going to America, about them almost not respecting our sovereignty, about them almost feel like America should be our big daddy and punish the whole country, even though, again, the problem is isolated to the rot. Afriforum has got enough money to go into black neighborhoods, get black voices to explain ANC corruption, to explain that Umkhonto weSizwe was just ANC people that looted before, to explain how the EFF and Julius and them are living comfortably. They have the money to go and push propaganda in townships to get black people to stop voting for these guys. But they would rather take that money and go and speak to Americans, and there'll be false information, and go speak in Europe and even at the UN and push some false information. That's upsetting. So it's like, I'm not happy, and I will say it. Not because I'm a leader in Afriforum, I'm a nobody. I'm absolutely no one in Afriforum. Ernst van Zyl doesn't even deserve to tweet me. He doesn't have to WhatsApp me. He doesn't have to come on my platform, and I have huge respect for the fact that he actually does. I have huge respect for that. I understand it's good for their marketing. I understand it's good for a platform for them. But he doesn't need to do that at all. They don't need me. They've got their own studios, stunning studios that they've built in Centurion. They've got associates and allies in South Africa, across the African continent, and the rest of the world. Why would they need some useless TikToker, podcaster, who's a nobody, who's got no money? I'm not a Patrice Motsepe. I'm not a politician. But for the fact that they could do that earns my respect. And it's the reason why I'd respect and admire Afrikaner people from when I was young, even when they are racist. I'm like, kom ons gesels, as khulume. You speak to Afrikaners ngesiZulu, uthi hey, môre meneer, hoe gaan dit? Hey, sawubona, khuluma nama, uyakhuluma. As khulume, and you're like, okay, this person's trying to meet me halfway. With the racism, rampant racism that the overwhelming majority of them have. I wanted to cover that. I can't keep going, man. There's so many things I have as notes here. Okay, let me try and go through this quickly. I'm going to read my notes and try and summarize. So some of my notes speak about the failures of the ANC. The ANC has destroyed this country in the last 30 years. The ANC doesn't need laws to loot, by the way. So anyone who's like this expropriation act, you know, the ANC, it's just never been audited and it's never been investigated. But maybe carte blanche, or someone will investigate one day to find a lot of the farms that were taken by the ANC that have been given to comrades. You need to ask basic questions like how Patrice Motsepe ended up with farms and the like, how Patrice Motsepe and them and some of their politically affiliated friends go find their farms. Julius Malema has spoken about how he got land when he was in the ANC. And I think, I could be wrong, I stand to be corrected. I think that land was taken when he left the ANC. Ask yourself how he got that land. There are ANC comrades and cadres that have gotten land, and a lot of them, the land is under a lease. So they'll get like 100 hectares and they're paying like 500 Rand a year. Ask how they got that land. They don't need an expropriation act to take land. Yes, they could exploit because they are corrupt. They loot. We've seen this from the arms deal. We've seen how Abo Ramaphosa became billionaires overnight, even though he's never really built anything of substance himself. So they don't need your permission to loot. And they've got a lot of their rich white friends that enable them to do that. They are white friends that are in the pharmaceutical industry, that supply government, that supply the private sector, that are in construction, that are in the retail space, that are in the healthcare space, who give them lots of money to carry on doing what they're doing. And they get board seats and they get paid and they do business together and they're rich. Their kids go to the same schools. So, you know, for people maybe to think, oh, the ANC needed an act to loot. They don't. They didn't need an act to loot COVID money. They've never needed an act, even to loot tenders. So don't think the Expropriation Act is an excuse to loot. They've been looting. There's a lack of accountability of rich white people who fund the ANC and who use black funds and who take money offshore. Again, the day someone goes and investigates the biggest tenderpreneurs in this country, go look at all the money that government spends and go look at who earns most of that money. Number one, straight government money, treasury, and then go look at state-owned enterprises like your Eskom, your Prasa, Transnet, Denel, and the like. Go look at who benefits. I mean, you've got Bosasa with Gavin Watson and Akriti. You know, those were white people that were making money from supplying our jails. Billions. You've got G-Force or G4S. These are white people making money off government. You've got Bidvest, which is a huge tenderpreneur. Glencore, which benefits a lot from our SOEs, specifically Eskom. And I'd like to think today they also benefit from our railway system. Remgro, under Johan Rupert, has benefited from rail. He benefits from the ports and the harbors. You've got Aspen, which supplies ARVs, which was supplying the vaccines. White Jewish-owned company. So, Discovery now, Adrian Gold, fat mates with Cyril Ramaphosa. No one called these guys out. Back in the day, you had the Oppenheimers who were funding Nelson Mandela, funding Cyril Ramaphosa. You've got Doe Steyn, may he rest in peace, who came out that he passed away just recently. He was a close ally of Nelson Mandela and the ANC. Thabo Mbeki, Tito Mboweni, good mates with the Van Sales who own ZZ2 in Limpopo, one of the biggest private-owned farms in the Southern Hemisphere. These guys have got friends everywhere. We can keep going. The banking guys. They friends. Tito Mboweni was friends. I'm not Tito Mboweni. Thabo Mbeki was friends with Johan Rupert. These guys have been funding these guys. They've been getting these guys to sit on their boards. They mine with these guys. They run business with these guys. They get BEE funding because some of these guys sit on their boards. But no one ever holds them to account. But you get billions from government every year. Do you benefit? Do you give some of this money to the ANC? I see on your board you've got ANC guys or ex-ANC guys, some of the names that I mentioned earlier. I mean, people like Abo Mario Ramos, these are ANC people, Trevor Manuel. These are ANC people who are wealthy today. But we don't speak about the white people who have enabled them to do that. And how a lot of those white people send a lot of their money offshore. They don't even reinvest it in the country. So we only blame the ANC government, but the ANC government doesn't work in isolation. There are so many wealthy white families who are enablers. I mean, you can even speak about Jacob Zuma and Louis Liebenberg now, but he's not the only one. Charles Senekal as well, and so many others. There are many white people that love Zuma. They may not just be as vocal because of the reputation he has, but we all have to play this game. That it's just black people that are corrupt. And it's like, but who's benefiting? The construction mafia that got a slap on the wrist. You had bread fixing companies, Pioneer Foods of Yanni Mouton of PSG, and many of the other Tiger brands. They were given a slap on the wrist for price fixing for bread. Listeriosis, Tiger Brands now is paying fines for people that died and got sick. No one speaks about that. When it's white people, Marcus Jooste, Steinhoff, accounting irregularities, improper conduct. You've got your McKinseys now. You've got your Deloitte, your KPMGs that are rampant in enabling and hiding corruption from white businesses. But are they? No, but it's RAR. Never mind the atrocities of the past. So we need to call those people out. The failures of the black middle class like myself in refusing to live in and upgrade townships and scale them. And this is very true. I am to blame and I'll take accountability. We have failed as the black middle class to uplift ourselves, to earn a decent income, and then to reinvest. You don't even need to move back. Reinvest in the township. My mother taught Ehlalanati High School in Matati, Section 4, just to donate a bit of money there. By the way, I wanted to, one of my notes here is my own accountability. Maybe I'll mention it later, but the black middle class and how we failed to give back and donate back where our parents grew up, where we grew up. We just leave the township, same way Cyril will leave Chawelo and then move to Hyde Park and then never look back, which is why his primary school still looks like a pile of shit. Tito Mboweni, before he passed away, went to visit his high school. It looks like a pile of shit. So we don't give back, the black middle class. We move away and then we never look back. And we are to blame. We don't even go to volunteer, even if it's once a year, just to give a day, maybe on Nelson Mandela Day, to say, I will go back to Ematadeni in Newcastle, just to go and volunteer day. And I'm going to try and inspire other kids like me to go and one day to say I'm giving back so that my hometown can become better. The failures of ordinary black people who refuse to buy from their own. I recently tweeted something that was seen before. I've mentioned it again on platforms. A tweet was posted. Black people asked white people any question. A black guy asked, how did you white people get it right to support white people? A white guy responded and said, I don't know about other spaces, but in my little town, we weren't taught to support white people as a thing. We were taught to support our family and friends as priority. It just so happened that our family and friends were white people. And that type of mindset, forget by black, forget by white, forget by Jewish, forget Afrikaners and South Dune, forget all of that. If you can make it a mission in your life to say, I will prioritize buying from businesses that are owned by my friends and my family members, never mind their race, their gender, never mind, my family and friends, I will make that a priority. If every black person in a township did that, they wouldn't support Pakistani-owned tuck shops. They wouldn't want to send their kids to schools in towns because it's like, I don't know the principal, but I know the people that built the school here in our class. I know the teachers. I know the principal. So I will send my child there as a priority. I don't know the people at Rema Church. I don't know Ray Macaulay, may he rest in peace, or his son, Josh Macaulay. But I know Pastor Musa Sono here. My father knows him. I'll support him. If everyone said, forget black, forget white, I will buy from and work for my friends and family, 80% of our problems would go away. And I wanted to highlight that tweet. So ordinary black South Africans buy from foreign-owned spaza shops. They get their hair done by African foreigners. They get people from Lesotho, Mozambique, Malawi to come and build properties for them because just like white people, they get cheap labor. They buy from white businesses in Pick and Pay, in ShopRite. They buy from Pep. These are some of my favorite businesses, by the way. They bank at Capitec. They don't support black. They don't support their own things. And then they miraculously don't understand how white people are rich, how the Pakistanis, the Bangladeshis, the Somalians, the Ethiopians, the Nigerians, the Zimbabweans are rich. The guys that are riding scooters are not from here. The guys that are in Korea, the guys that are waiters and waitresses, they are not from here. And you're there supporting them. And tomorrow they'll have more money than your ordinary black South Africans, including your family and friends that are living in RDPs, that are collecting a child grant, that are undereducated, and you'll be shocked. What happened? Wat gaat aan hierso? Wat gaat aan is you are part of the problem. And black people don't take accountability. After blaming Afriforum, after blaming the ANC, after blaming Donald Trump, it's like, what about you, bro? What about where you spend your money? What about who you're working for? And I ran a poll a few days ago. I think 54, if not 57% of the people that voted, over 7,000 votes, said they prefer a white employer. I think black employers got like 30 something because I also had Indians and the colors, and the Indians got the least. I think blacks got 30 something and white people got like 54, 57%. Black people prefer working for white people. You're giving your labor, your energy, your creativity, your everything to white people, but you don't understand why white people are rich. But you're making them rich. And you don't want to work for black people because you're like, yo, black employers don't pay us on time. Yo, they are invested in their Mercedes Benz over. Then you must fix that, or you must find other black. And again, forget black, forget white. Support your friends and family, but you won't. And then you don't understand why some white people are so racist and condescending and patronizing. But it's because of you. It's because of us, so to speak. My own accountability. I carry a lot of guilt for failing my community where I come from. I carry a lot of guilt, and I do believe I could do so much more. I was born in Matadeni Township, Section 4. I lived there till I was 5. I moved to Arbor Park in the suburbs of Newcastle. We lived there until 1998. My mother moved us to Newcastle Central. I would live there officially until 2003 when I was in matric. They would live there for much longer until about 2016. I would go to Emakanda, Grahamstown, to study, and then I'd come to Johannesburg since 2008. But where I come from and where I lived for 17 years is Newcastle and Matadeni. And it would be nice for me to give back, even if it's over a period of 17 years, giving back a little bit. Of course, I was a star student, academics, sports, culture. I tried wherever I was to be a good ambassador for Newcastle, especially Newcastle High. To this day, people want to know, where do you go to school, bro? You're English. And I'm like, no, I didn't go to one of your fancy schools. I went to Newcastle High. We're school, Newcastle. Brilliant school. Alec Hogg of Biz News, a mutual friend with Rob Hersov, is also from Newcastle High with his wife. I've got a lot of guilt. However, there's a big part of me that doesn't have guilt because I've been a great ambassador for my hometown. I've been a great ambassador for my upbringing. I have spent a lot of money in the Newcastle economy even after I've left. I always give shout outs to Porto's Fish and Chips. I've invested in a lot of small businesses in Newcastle, small black-owned businesses in particular. I've sponsored my school, the rugby teams in t-shirts, in terms of money. I've coached at my old high school. I coached for a year when I was there. I've gone to be a guest speaker. I've mentored a lot of the kids there. I've tried to set up a Newcastle Old Boys Association. Unfortunately, not a lot of guys got the vision. We were trying to push t-shirts to fundraise and to do well for the school. I've liaised with the principal, Mr. Governor at Newcastle High. Even in Matadeni Township, I've spent a lot of money there. I've developed a bit of property there. At the time, I used to pay school fees for some of the kids at my mother's school, Eshalanati High. My brother at some point was teaching Eshalanati High as a form of giving back. So we've really tried in our way. And you can't do it alone. And you shouldn't wait to be a millionaire or a billionaire. Again, like I said, it could be one day in a year. It could be 100 Rand. I mean, now, like Afriforum and Gift of the Givers, every other month now, I also donate to Newcastle High School, just to contribute. I mean, if 1,000 of us were to contribute 50 Rand a month, that's 50,000 Rand that the school can use for bursaries for talented kids, that can use for teachers, that can use for infrastructure, over and above school fees. It's money that they could take this 50,000 and say, we won't spend it, we will invest it. And then once we get to an investment portfolio of 5 million, then we'll take the dividends and we'll make sure that those dividends invest in the school. Johan Rupert's alma mater, Paul Roos Gymnasium, which has produced the greatest number of Springboks, one of the oldest schools in South Africa, has got an old boys fund of over 100 million Rand, and a lot of it is invested in shares. Grey College in Bloemfontein is arguably the best school on the African continent. Grey College has got an old boys fund of over 100 million Rand. And there are many other top South African schools that are the same. It's schools coming together. It's one of the reasons I respect Afrikaners. You've got a school like Help Mekaar College in Johannesburg, in Parktown, where Afrikaners came together at a time when Afrikaners couldn't get schools because we were still under British rule, and they built a private school. Later on, when Afrikaners and the National Party would get into government, they would prioritize an Afrikaans school, and they would create Afrikaanse School in Pretoria, which later on they'd split between Afrikaanse Macy's School and Afrikaanse Seuns Hoërskool. Brilliant, some of the best schools in the country. Afrikaans Macy's generally is in the top 3 of top academic schools in the country. Afrikaans Seuns Hoërskool produces Springboks, Proteas, The boys are very intelligent. They community, gemeenskap, umphakathi, coming together and self-doing, ukubambisana, sizanani, and those kind of things. So I've tried my bit, and unfortunately, I guess my failure was inspiring other people to do the same. And this could explain why I still believe in penalism, or why I would get to a point of penalism community branches. PCBs, focus on your community, focus on the people around you, because that's what I've learned from Afriforum, that's what I've learned from Orania, that's what I've learned from the Jewish community, that's what I've learned from the Muslim community, to say, yes, you can be pro-Black, you can be pro-Israel, pro-Palestine, yes, you can like American culture, you can like Russia, China, BRICS, but what about putting your community first? Because China can do well, Russia can do well, Israel can do well, the Jews can do well, the Muslims can do well, the Black people can do well. But is your community doing well? Patrice is a billionaire. Saki Matozoma is a billionaire. But is your family living well? No. Dostane, rich Afrikaans man, passed away unfortunately. Eric Sampson, Jewish man. You've got your Ivan Klassenbergs, you've got your Nati Kirsch, you've got your Yanni Moutons, you've got your Christo Visas, you've got your Bridget Mutipe, you've got your Wendy Applebaum, you've got your Wendy Luhabe, as I said, Dr. Anna Mokhokong, Daphne Nkosi, I mentioned Charles Senegal, of course we had Marcus Joost at some point, you've got the Menels, you've got the Hersovs, you've got Brian Joffe, you've got all these people, so they look good. Maybe the Guptas, Vivian Reddy and his family, the Sheikh family, etc. They're doing well, but how's your community looking? Do you guys have good schools? Do you have good clinics? Have you closed your potholes? Do you guys have jobs? Or are you buying from businesses that are enriching Stellenbosch, enriching Sandton, enriching foreign investors somewhere else? You guys would rather support BRICS, but you're enriching China and Russia, but your community is still poor. BRICS takes over tomorrow. We say, fuck America, we lose AGOA. They don't fund us. The Chinese say they're coming in. But China gets rich and your community is still poor. And you're like, then what was the point of BRICS? It's because you're not prioritizing your community. Put your community first. Put your community first. Move like the Jewish community. Learn from them. You may not like them. Move like the Muslim community in South Africa. You may not like them. Move like them. You may not like some of how the Afrikaner communities move. The best schools in this country. And I could give you a long list. I mentioned Paul de Roos Gymnasium, there's Paul Boys High, there's Paul Gymnasium, you've got your Daniel Pienaar, you've got your Voortrekker, you've got your Waterkloof, you've got your Hoërskool Monument, I mentioned Afrikaanse Seuns Hoërskool, you've got your Afrikaans Macy's, you've got your Grey College, you've got Unisi. We could go through the whole country, man. Afrikaans schools are brilliant, and it's because they believe in gemeenskap. The Afrikaans community gathers at their Nederlandse gereformeerde kerk, at the NG Kerk, the Dutch Reformed churches. They unite under Christian leadership and they put money together. They have markets, they fund, they give each other jobs, they put each other on, they invest in each other's businesses, they support Afrikaner farmers. Huisgenoot, last I checked, is still the highest selling magazine in the country. Afrikaans literature is still, fiction is still the highest selling in the country. CakeNet will do well, and they even were supporting cigarettes when Dr. Anton Rupert set up Richmond. Is it not Richmond? Rembrandt. Sorry, that's where Remgrow comes from. They were there being patriotic, putting the community first. PSG, as an example, putting Curo, Dr. Chris van der Merwe, putting community first. So learn from these people. Look at Afriforum and say they've done well for their community. Who is my community? And Black is not a community because Afrikaners are not white. They are Afrikaner. It's not a white forum. It's an Afriforum. So what is your forum? Is it Zulu Forum, Xhosa Forum? Is it Newcastle Forum? Is it Makanda Forum? Is it Guguletu Forum? Is it, no, my church members, the Shembe Forum, the whatever, the Rema Church Forum? Who is your community? How can we get each other jobs so that in my community we have low unemployment? Our public clinics are almost like private hospitals. Our public schools, all the schools I mentioned, the Afrikaans schools, except for Helpmekaar and Curo, are all public government schools. How do we get our public schools to be world-class? Grey College, by the way, is a public school. Paul Ross Gymnasium, as I say, these schools with over 100 million rand in all boys funding. How do we ensure that our streets, Christo Visa spoken about this, that some of his rich friends would complain about potholes and he'd be like, why are you complaining about potholes when we can close them? We've got the money type of situation. So we can be the solution. Politicians are not here to serve us. They're about power. I've been disappointed by some of the tweets of Gayton McKenzie. Gee, I love Gayton so much. Some of his tweets supporting Donald Trump, even to a point where he says something as crass as, I will lick ass if it means jobs for my people. I'm like, it shouldn't get to licking ass. There's dignity. It's dima. It's tunzi that we should have. You should never have to lick ass to protect your people and for jobs. We can still have dignity and have a conversation. And if yes, they have more money than us, a bigger military, sure, but that doesn't mean we have to lick us. So that was a bit disappointing, and some of his utterings, and it's like he's too invested in the GNU and supporting President Cyril Ramaphosa that I feel is not prioritizing Patriotic Alliance. He's not prioritizing on Baizani, the colored community. At some point, you almost start even feeling like maybe he's not even prioritizing South Africans. It's all about the GNU, the government, and labor, the trade agreements. So that's a bit disappointing. Focus on your community and make sure that you get everyone else to do the same and to be patriotic. These Pakistanis, Ethiopians, Somalians, I've seen them. These guys gather on weekends, especially the Somalians. You'll see them, especially at their weddings. They come together and they fundraise. They have stockfiles, crowdfunding, and they help each other set up more spaza shops. You find the same with some of these Zimbabweans, Malawians. When they bring their brothers and sisters in, they all live in one room, 10, 15 of them. They put each other on, they help each other become car guards, or they help each other learn to do hair, or they put up a little internet cafe, or they learn how to lay bricks, or how to fix tires. They put each other on. The Nigerians. They put each other on, they come together, they fund each other in various ways. And Black South Africans don't have that anymore. Your own family can't put money together. You guys don't trust each other, nealoyana, and all those things. Just recently, there was more black on black violence. Black people would rather kill each other than kill anyone else who's a so-called enemy. They'd rather take their money and give it to other people than their own community because they're like, once Penal thinks he's better than us. He moves to the suburbs. He's now driving a fancy car. He looks at us like peasants. I'd rather make the white man rich. And you're like, what's going on with your minds? You're broken. You need to be healed and to be helped. I think that will be my parting shot. I have another parting shot, but maybe this is for another day. My last note being, Black people have given up on each other so much that they pray for a dictator. They pray for a Putin. They pray for a Xi Jinping or a Mao Zedong. They pray for Ibrahim Traore. These so-called dictators commit a lot of atrocities on their own people to get to their vision. And you might be one of the casualties if you're not willing to play ball. Your Ibrahim Traore operates in a certain way militarily. But Nakhon, it's not necessarily that he was helped by other African states. He had to be helped by Russia. He might be getting help from China. And we don't know what that story looks like. Will he be taken out by one of his own, like Thomas Sankara and Blaise? Will he be taken out by one of his own, like Patrice Lumumba? You know, where they send your own people to stab you in the back, like Udingan and Oshaga? You know, or will he get to a point where he succeeds and then he becomes a monster and he becomes too powerful and he starts oppressing his own people? Or propaganda is spread about him like Muammar Gaddafi. And you find people that people like today, like Barack Obama, who go and kill Muammar Gaddafi, who was about the people of Libya, who was about the African Union. And the people of Libya and the African Union have not come together to build an African military to avenge the death of Muammar Gaddafi, who wanted a unified currency for Africa, who wanted Africa to trade as one unit, who wanted African unity, who put in so much work for Libya. Did he commit atrocities? He probably did, because that's what it takes. That's what it takes to become a dictator and to force people to do the right thing. Millions of people died in China. Be careful of what you wish for. You guys want a dictator, but then we must also still smile with you and still laugh with you. I can be a dictator, but I will oppress you. I will force you to work sweatshops. I will underpay you. I will enforce some tyranny. I won't allow for liberal media, where you criticize me, you want freedom of speech. You're like, we're building a nation here. Your father's trying to build a strong family, and every other day you bad-mouthing him to the neighbors. Your father has to discipline you or disown you and tell you, fuck off from my house. I can't be building a house and you're like, my father's so strict and he beats us up and he only gives us 2 meals a day. I'm trying to build something here, but you also want freedom and you want to fart around, and I must applaud you for being mediocre. It's not how it works. So be careful of what you wish for. But I think some black people have given up on themselves so much that they pray for a dictator, for a parent, because they're like, we're children. Left to our own devices, we can't. We need someone stronger than us to bully the Pakistanis out of spaza shops in the same way the taxi industry bullies people off the road so that taxis can still be owned by black people. It's like, is that the only way you guys will use our businesses? Even if we supply substandard service, as long as we bully you and threaten you and use violence, that's the only way for us to have an economy. That's quite sad for me. I want to see if there's any of your comments that are worth reading while I'm still here. But I appreciate you guys for being on this live. And I hope you all share this video for education and for learning. The biggest takeaway should always be focus on your community. Penalism community branches. I've created a logo. We've got an executive team. I'm hoping many more people are going to be coming on board to help us work. I'm not for democracy. So if you're going to come there and tell me, change the name, change the logo, why use your face, go join another organization. I'm trying to do something here that'll make a difference in the lives of people. So yeah. I want to thank Tiens Bota. I see Tiens donated money. I appreciate you very much, Tiens. I want to thank, he contributed to my last life. Thank you so much. You said a mouthful, I drink or Fiji water. Thank you so much, my brother. I appreciate those of you who donate to my lives. I appreciate those of you who are paying members to my channel. Once I've got more structures and systems to the penalism community branches, and I learn more from your Afriforums, from your Oranians, from your Gift of the Givers and the like, learning from the Jewish community and the Muslim community and some of the Afrikaner communities, hopefully it will be easier for you to donate. But it's not so much to donate to me. That's not really what I'm trying to do. I want you guys to donate to the penalism community branch in your area so that that money can serve your community and close the potholes and invest in the schools and invest in the churches and invest in the clinics to build a first world community for you guys. There are first world communities in South Africa, I've seen them, that are better than parts of America, parts of Europe, parts of Asia. There are places like Dubai in South Africa because the community is focused on building a strong economy. That's where I want the money to go. And then we'll take a little bit of that money to the national office, to a centralized fund for marketing, to make sure that I can travel around the country and spread the message, to make sure that if you guys have problems in your community, we can come resolve them. If you need help and training, if you need some of your community leaders to travel to other communities to learn, we can do that. But that money shouldn't necessarily be coming to me. It should be actually going to your community. And once the structures are set, then your community branches will pay some fee to the national structures. And if your community branch feels like they don't need the national structure, they can de-link and do their own thing. Because again, this is not about becoming rich or wealthy, which I would love to do. And I'd love to do it while giving back to the community. But it's more about, I would rather not make money and make sure that I made an impact. And today we've got more communities that are about doing for themselves. More communities that are self-determined. More spaces that don't rely so much on politicians and big business, where they support their local businesses owned by people that they know. That the police there are children that grew up there. That the nurses and the doctors there are the people that grew up there. And the community's got pride in who they are. Even if Penzo is not getting 2 Rand or 5 Rand from your community, and Penzo is not rich in a mansion saying, well, I'm wealthy because, you know, we've got 500 branches around South Africa and all of them feed up to me and I make at least 10 million a month. I'd love to make that money, but I would rather not make that money and influence the communities. But if I can do both, uplift the communities, make a lot of money for myself and the executive team at national level, let's fucking do it. And let's make a huge impact for South Africa. And if we can get it right here, we can start exporting the penalism community branches around the rest of the world. which would be my ultimate goal. But I appreciate you guys coming through. I'm going to see if I can quickly read some of these comments before this live shuts down on YouTube officially. I won't respond to them. I'll just read them so that I can remember them for future. And maybe for other people, what could help, especially some of the guys that have me on WhatsApp that know me, maybe homework. If you can take screenshots while you're here, maybe let me do this. I'll take screenshots quickly while you guys are here. If you can do screenshots maybe in future of some of the live comments and then send them to me, that means I can read them. And then maybe at some point when I make another live, I can just go through the comments, because unfortunately YouTube doesn't keep these comments. Because I love reading your comments, man. I won't lie. I learn a lot from you guys. You guys correct me at times. Someone was correcting Skid Row in Los Angeles and the like. So yeah, we've got a lot of work to do, guys, if you're up to it. And then there's a whole lot of other people that I want to give pushback because they benefit from the destruction that we have in this country. But we can do so much better. I love you guys. I appreciate you. I hope you'll have an amazing Friday. I may be on Ikakasi FM this afternoon at 4 p.m. with DJ Spectacular and Naves. So if you can get to Ikakasi FM at around 4 o'clock, I may be on it, but it's not guaranteed. And then after this little live thing that I've done, I'm going to wrap my head around, and if he's willing, I might still go sit with Gareth Cliff. I'm not sure. As I said, my interview from a few weeks ago with Rob Hersov drops on Monday. I'm going to emphasize again when it drops that this was shot, and I'm going to state the date of when it was shot, because you mustn't think that I made that video after this and we didn't say anything about it. I am sad about Afriforum, but again, they don't stand for me. They stand for their people. But I will speak out against some of the false information. I will speak out about the fact that I'm not happy about them trying to get America to do weird things that don't make sense. I will ask them to focus on the politicians, especially name them. And then we need to focus on the rich white people and black people and Indians who fund our corrupt politicians. We saw some of the lists. Your Oppenheimers, your Mutsipes and the like, fund some of these guys, your ANC, DA, EFF and the like. I think Patrice even funds the Freedom Front Plus. So these guys are there. We can see some of them. And then some of them we may not know. We must know them. Martin Moshal, as an example. I think Rob Hersov may have donated to, I don't know if it was Freedom Front Plus and the Patriotic Alliance. So we need to see these people that are responsible for some of these things. And I'm just sad about some of the racism on Twitter. I know Twitter is not a real space, and I know it doesn't speak for all white people. But those of us who are stupid enough to still believe in working together, those of us who are still stupid enough to love this part of the world and think we can work together, those of us who are stupid enough to say we can find smarter ways to share some of the land, especially with people that can maximize the use of the land. Some of us who are stupid enough to feel that we can build an economy together so that we're no longer blaming apartheid, but we're looking at what can we do now with what we have and then build moving forward. Let's see if we can find each other. Let's see if we can build. And to a whole lot of the white people that I saw on Twitter this week that I thought were those people, but have proven to me that they're not, it's okay. I'm just glad that I'm less ignorant than I was. And yes, moving forward, unfortunately, I'm going to be more paranoid about all types of white people that come up to me pretending like they're about non-racialism and building this country, when they actually just want to benefit from using a black face and a black voice that's going to get them into certain doors and soften the blow and not criticize them as much as they should be and not hold them to account for their role in what they should be doing in building this country and this continent and our communities for better. Have a great Friday, guys. I love you. I appreciate you, and I'll see you soon. Pen you all the black pen, the swart pen, pen elimnyama, siba ulunsun, pen ensu, estilo noir. Cheers.